progress.
All righty. Delvo.
Yes.
Schuler.
Here.
Scannell.
Present.
Dean.
Here.
Hinkfist.
Here.
Parma. Is excused, she's online.
She is not on.
Okay, and Ganther. I believe Jessica is joining us virtually.
Yes, I'm here.
We have quorum, sir.
Excellent, thank you. Motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Minutes from November 8th and November 29th.
I approve those minutes.
Alderman Scannell.
Second.
Kathy. Motion and a second. All those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Regular order of business. Number 1, consideration of possible action to approve a 6-month planning option for a 10-unit multifamily development by NeighborWorks, Green Bay on parcels 2-176, 418 Fort Street, 2-177 Fort Street, and 2-178, 821 South Chestnut Avenue, and finally 2-178A, which is 815 South Chestnut Avenue. Who's got that? Oh, yeah. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. So this is a proposal that we received from NeighborWorks Green Bay to develop our 4th Street site near downtown, and looking at building a 10-unit townhome style homes. These will be marketed for sale, and out of the 10 units, 3 of those units will be set aside for home buyers that are income qualified, so looking at 80% or below area median income. Really nice units, looking at 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath, and 1-stall garage. And then each unit will be approximately 1,166 square feet of living space. Staff has reviewed the proposal, requesting approval of all 6, we reviewed the proposal, and we're requesting approval of a 6-month planning option, so they continue to explore the requirements needed to accommodate this development on the site.
I see we have NeighborWorks on board.
Noel's here, and David Erickson as well.
It's up to the group. We can open the meeting up if you like.
Yeah, I'd make a motion.
Okay.
That way we open up the meeting. Just hear a little bit more about the planning, what they need to do during the planning option.
Absolutely. Motion and second to open up the meeting. All those in favor, saying aye.
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 Great. So no.
I can speak to it.
Please.
Let's have David take a picture, and I'll step in if necessary.
Okay.
Sure.
Dave.
David Erickson, just to introduce everybody, I started with NeighborWorks about 6 months ago as a project manager on the real estate development team, working with Noel and Jerry Tyrell. With regard to this 4th Street project, like Will described it, it's a 10-unit townhome style with a garage on the main level, 2 levels of living space above. The main level is a great room with a kitchen, and then 2 bedrooms above. We've gone through several rounds of design with the staff, and this is the most current one. There are some plans and elevations included in the agenda packet that we'll put together for us, so if you have any questions there, I can answer those, or if you want to look at those together. But like you said, 3 of the units out of the 10 will be marketed to a income qualified family.
I couldn't tell from the diagram, but I think I know the answer. Typically in your projects, you made them all unique, you know, with siding, etc. Is that what we're going to have here as well?
It could be. The color palettes and the finishes are still up in the air. We do, on the main level, we do intend to have a brick finish, but you're right. If you're familiar with our color palette around town for previous projects, it'll probably match those pretty closely.
Beautiful.
So the shape and the massing are kind of in place as you see them on the drawings, but the color palettes are certainly up for discussion.
The previous projects have been beautiful.
Thank you.
There's also some environmental things that need to get done as well on the land that we have, so. This will give us time to also go through that process as well.
This is right outside of the shipyard district funding?
It's actually right across the street from another project we have going on right now on 421 4th Street, which is a single-family bridges project we're doing with the Green Bay School District. It's right south of the Mason Street on-ramp
That's right.
as you come
Yeah.
east into town.
Yeah.
So,
I know. I was just wondering whether there's funding for the shipyard district or
Questions,
homes.
comments from the group?
So kind of in the course of the next 6 months, what do you need to get done so that within that period?
we'll be continuing our environmental studies like Cheryl mentioned, and then we're also going to start to put together, we've got a site plan together that's included on the package that you see there. We'll be working with engineers as needed to make sure it meets all the qualifications for site layout and things like that, as well as whatever the outcome of the environmental studies are. There is, I think, just to be clear, the sites that we're working with, there's one site in between the area that we're working with and the dry cleaner that's on South Broadway, tiny dry cleaner. So that's where all the testing is going on, I think, with regard to environmental studies. So we're not impacting that area at all. We're just the 3 properties to the west of that and 1 to the north on Chestnut.
So Cheryl, in regard to the environmental cleanup, there is some, that can be on the city, take care of?
I dramatically turn to Matt Buchanan.
We're going to cover the cost for the Phase 2 environmental site assessment.
Okay.
That'll tell us what contamination is there, if any. Sometimes there's not. So after we find out if there is any, then we'll figure out the remediation plan if one's needed and evaluate from there.
All right, good answer.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
Is there anything else I can answer for you?
How long do we think the environmental is going to take?
We're still getting a final proposal back from the consultants, but hopefully within a month or 2.
Okay.
Other questions and comments from the group? If not,
Just real quick, I guess.
yeah, please.
Mr. Chair.
It's there.
I was just curious if there was ever a thought for an additional building rather than the surface parking kind of in that back corner?
The number we've been working with the city on is between 8 and 12 units, so
Yeah.
we landed on 10. I think I have had a conversation with a local engineer, and there may be some need for some surface water management. So
Sure.
we've kind of reserved that back corner there as that zone for management of water. So,
Got it.
but I think it might be a little tight to try and squeeze another building in there anyway with the parking requirements too.
Really tall and thin.
They are tall and thin. They're about each unit is about 16 feet wide and I think maybe 30 feet deep. Oh, yeah, they are. But they're pretty similar in width to some other townhome projects you've probably seen around town.
Okay, thanks.
I'm not sure, Neil, the question is, we feel these are very marketable? Or, I mean,
Absolutely, all indications are this would be a little bit more unique offering from townhomes, but we think that absolutely would be marketable. Yeah, certainly with everything else going on, redevelopment occurring in the area is a great opportunity for someone to get in and get it started and have a really nice, really neat, get it in a great neighborhood that's really kind of getting some good investment in it going forward. So.
and Will's that's everything.
That helps. That helps. Absolutely.
Well, we really appreciate, NeighborWorks, their flexibility in trying to meet the density that we'd like to see in that area. Because we spent a lot of time with consultants and studyings and neighborhood meetings in that area to determine, that we really wanted to see a higher density in that area, and they delivered with this product here, this town. So.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we'll go back to regular business.
Motion to go back to regular business.
Second.
And all in favor, all in favor, someone say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are back to regular business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Motion to approve?
Alderman Scannell and Matt, any questions or comments in regard to the motion? If not, all those in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Excellent job. Very exciting. You guys are great partners.
Yeah.
Enjoy working with you.
Appreciate it.
Number 2, consideration of possible action to approve a 5-month extension to the planning option held by NeighborWorks Green Bay for 1162 parcel 7-62 and 1164 parcel -7-63 on Day Street.
Me again?
Oh, Will again?
Yep. And so if we recall back in May of 2022, the RDA granted a planning option to NeighborWorks Green Bay for the redevelopment of these 2 RDA-owned properties. They were going to be developing them into 2 single-family homes. one on each property, and this was also going to be part of the bridges construction program as well, so working with the high schoolers there. And both homes are going to be marketed to home buyers earning 80% or below AMI. So at this time, those two properties that are still in the floodplain. So really the hang up to trying to get shovels in the ground and dirt moving is we really need these properties to come out of the floodplain, which FEMA is looking at doing this spring in April.
Yeah, it's been kind of one of those dates that have been pushed off and pushed off, but I believe the letter's officially been sent, so we're looking at May of next year where all those parcels are going to come out of the floodplain, so.
And meaning floodplain areas being changed.
Correct.
No, we're not elevating up.
We are bringing in a lot of fill.
FEMA
mapping is changing.
It'd be like mound areas.
Exactly, and because of, I mean, right now, since the area is still in the floodplain, I mean, NeighborWorks would be required to build up. And we don't want to do that, knowing that they'll be coming out of the floodplain in spring. So that is the primary reason for the extension of this planning option is once we receive that official amendments to the map, we can begin work. So looking at extending that to the end of June 2023.
So we just gotta go with the flow.
Just gotta go.
When FEMA signs and sends a letter, is it quickly, or is this like, ooh, this could be months?
Well, we, probably a year ago, we were saying, hopefully it's quick. And so we're past that. So we officially, I think the county officially got the letter.
Okay.
Which is the letter which gets things in motion and sets that like 6-month time frame, I think.
Okay.
So 6 months from the date of that letter puts us in May, I believe, so.
Okay.
All right, so the end is in sight.
So we're
Yes. Motion to approve the extension.
Motion made by Debbie. Second by Kathy, actually. Yeah, Kathy's not you.
That's Randy.
That's perfectly fine. Okay, any questions or comments in regard to the motion in a second? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Great, thank you, Jessica. Motion carried, thank you. Number 3, consideration with possible action on RDA-owned property related to the potential reuse of the building at 301 North Adams Street, multiple condominium parcels. Last meeting we went into closed session, had a good discussion, I thought, and came back, actually in closed session we told staff to follow up on a number of different items. So I think we should go back in closed session and talk about the results of those, and unless you have, Neil, you have anything else to open up?
I think we'd just like to briefly provide a brief update, if I could, in open session, Mr. Chair. Obviously, just to remind everybody that there are 3 requests that are before the RDA, or that was being requested by the owner of the project here at the Bay Lake City Center. One was basically the creation of a 30-foot no-build easement on the RDA-owned property. The second item was transfer of vacation and attachment of right-of-way on the northeast corner of the property where there's kind of loading docks. There was a kind of a remnant section of right-of-way that was actually left over from when the mall was here. This would essentially just be cleaning up that corner. The third item was transfer or possible acquisition of the RDA-owned corner of property on the northwest corner of the building. Brought those forward at our last meeting. Got some direction from RDA. We have, certainly went back and had further discussions with the applicant here, and just have a couple updates. Wanted to make sure that it was clear, and they are available on the call if we wanted to open it up for them prior to closed session, Mr. Chair, to ask them any questions. Essentially, after further discussions with Mr. Belschner, essentially, and with our own chief building official, the no-build easement that is being requested actually was actually going to be required for not only for their building, but if we are to build anything on our lot, that easement would be required for our chief building official. So it is actually beneficial to both properties. There is a need for doing it. Again, this is simply something, there was actually an easement originally back probably about, looks like 25 years ago, that was vacated for some reason. According to discussions with our chief building official, that probably should not have ever been vacated and approved. It should have been maintained, simply because of the original structure of how those mall buildings have come down, essentially, and what's been left over. That easement should have remained in place. The second item, again, I think the other 2 items, Mr. Belcher has indicated that he does not require either one of those items, but in terms of just kind of cleaning up some additional work, again, left over from the days of the original mall, that transferring that RDA parcel over to like the condominium association, and then actually getting that last little remnant of right-of-way is something that they would be willing to take on, but is not absolutely required for the project at this point. So that's essentially kind of some discussions that we have had on that. I would like to see if the RDA would be to open the floor to Mr. Belcher to provide any comments on this, just in case for his, again, why they're making the request that they are, and to answer any questions that this group may have.
Excellent.
Motion to open the floor.
Alderman Scannell?
Second.
And Matt, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are open. Paul, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking up the item. This is on behalf of Bay Lake City Center Condominium Association, Inc. Rick Fisher is on the call with us with Fisher and Associates. The other partner that really that isn't on the call today would be Dave DeWick. We do have a condominium association meeting scheduled for Monday to go through the procedures of drafting the offer to finalize these open items as discussed with Neil. And the intent is to clean up some items that have been lingering with this particular set of parcels and condominiums since the mall was raised. I've asked that Rick provide just a brief overview on those three items, and I think it's in concurrence with Paul Van Kelster's thought.
Okay, Rick?
Sure. So this is Rick Fisher with Fisher and Associates Architects. So the first item, which was the 30-foot no-build easement, that was actually in place originally when the mall, when the Boston Store was constructed. And when you have large footprint buildings like this, that's normally a requirement that there's at least 30 feet of clearance around the entire perimeter of the building. And so for some reason, that easement was removed. So what we're trying to do at that point is, get the current building back into code compliance, because currently it's not compliant because there's no easement dedicated on that side. Fortunately, the building's able to use the original code that was developed under, because under the current code, I believe that easement would need to be 60 feet, not just the 30 that we're requesting. The second item, which is the corner remnant at the right-of-way, that's where the loading dock is.
Right.
There's a little rectangle that juts into the loading dock ramp rather than following the back of the sidewalk. So that would be nice just for long-term maintenance and things, because obviously the ramp area is not part of the public use space. So we have to just attach that if possible, so that it's easier, long-term for maintenance and things. And then the last item, which is combining the corner lot back to the main building. So when that corner was inbuilt and reconstructed and the base was put on the building, in those construction documents, it had indicated that the lot would be combined. So when you have multiple buildings adjacent to each other like this, either the firewall, the permanent block wall with no leads in it, or they need to be combined into one. So the design at the time that the exterior was reconstructed, the intention was that, and it clearly showed on the documents, that the corner, the new space that was created was going to be combined back into the main building. And that transaction just never occurred.
Okay.
And I had done core research on that back in 2018 for the Condominium Association, so that's why I know it so well. So that's, so that was all we had to do was just clean up these three items to make the existing building code compliant.
Paul, Rick, last meeting, we passed around some diagrams, we all just a quick glance at them. And obviously there were some apartments correct me if I'm wrong, it didn't have windows. So my question is, what percentage of those are there, and how can you have an apartment without 2 exits? I don't understand. Please help me.
Sure, so with the code allows artificial light and exterior ventilation. So what's unique about those units was that they have direct outside air through the HVAC system. Where a lot of places they just use an openable window, so anything that's more than roughly 4 stories tall doesn't use all 4 operable windows. And then the exterior windows are not actually required. So this building, the way we've got it designed, it has fire-rated corridors throughout the building. It also has a separation in it so that you can essentially exit from one side of the building into the other on that main floor. So we've been working with Joe Dave on just making sure that we have upgraded or beyond minimum building code exiting and protections for all the protections for the occupants. It helps the fire department. So they have smoke tank compartments and things. So it is, it is about critical in-order upgrades to the building beyond the 4th minimum that we've been working with the fire department as part of the variance for the our state of the variance that we applied for and was granted.
Okay. So what, again, we just had a quick glance at the diagrams last meeting. So what percentage of these apartments are like that, and which ones actually do have windows? What percent?
The center core, I think that's 28, maybe, of the 72. I don't have the plan in front of me, but it's...
Okay.
20.
Yeah, Neil, please.
Just a note on that.
Bedroom, 4, 3.
They have submitted their plans through building inspection, and they are in process of reviewing and finalizing those. I think they were waiting on finalizing some plumbing plans, and then the intention would be to request a building permit once those are approved.
Okay.
To begin that work. But they have been working in coordination with Mr. Van Kelster and his staff.
So your gut reaction right now, those apartments will be in compliance? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Questions, comments, please?
A question. When we were talking about making a couple of these things right, one, did I hear this correctly that the corner lot should have been part of the original Boston store when that was bought, but somehow it's in the RDA's name and not theirs, so we're gonna, is that what I heard?
The intention now, and certainly correct me if I misspeak here, but essentially this was the RDA's parcel was essentially a remnant parcel left over from the original combination of all the other inside of the existing structure. But the intent was, and I agree with Rick, that the intent was originally to combine this with the other uses, so there wasn't a standalone separate ownership on the corner. It was to actually transfer it to the condominium association at some point. Now, whether that was for a specific dollar figure or what the actual arrangements on that were, I don't know. It does make sense. It is kind of an oddball remnant parcel that's kind of stuck on the corner. Again, we've got the key is that in terms of whether or not the RDA maintained ownership, or if the condominium association retained ownership, there are improvements that need to be made in order to have it be code compliant. Mm-hmm. Essentially, these probably should have been taken care of quite a long time ago, and for one reason or another, I don't know if it's because it was an RDA ownership, it has not been addressed. So we're just at a point where I think we just need to make a decision, one way or the other. Whoever the owner is going to be does need to make some improvements to that space in order to bring it up to code compliance.
So is it kind of like
go ahead.
Right of refusal, meaning if they have first right of refusal to buy it, or that it was?
Again, right, essentially, we're firstly looking at some sort of transaction for them acquiring the site. My conversation with them is that they don't require this parcel to do so. Okay. But if they were able to bring it up, they would make the investment to make it code compliant if it was able to transfer at an agreed upon price. Essentially, I think the request is just to transfer the property to the condominium ownership at this point.
This is Rick Fisher again. So one of the things that I guess that is important is that from a code perspective, right now there's 2 separate parcels. And it becomes 1 parcel so that the overall building footprint is in compliance, because you can't have a separate parcel. You can have separate ownership like a condominium, but you can't have a separate parcel. So that's the hiccup, is that there's 2 separate actual boundaries and 2, so whether the ownership transferred or not, the property line needs to be removed.
So that impedes the 30-foot easement from all the way around?
Well, again, the easement is just needed really on the RDA-owned property. I think, and again, I think the key issues are fire rating with that particular site firewall, and again, right now, there's no separate utility metering for the RDA corner, so essentially the heating and everything has been coming through the condominium association essentially at this point, so.
And that's the northwest.
There is no firewall. So it was just an addition put onto the building with no separations of any kind. So let's say on the original construction documents, it clearly shows that that the properties were to be combined, and I'm not sure if it was part of a tip of the reconstruction or how it was happening, but it's pretty clear that the obligation to finish the documents had never occurred to remove the property line to make it all one property.
Other questions or comments for Paul or Rick? If not, go back to regular order.
Motion to go back into regular order.
Second.
That was a tie.
That was
Alderman
tied.
Scannell and
Kathy gets-
Kathy. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are back to regular order business. One of the questions that we talked about in closed session, I think we need to talk about again in closed session. Matt, you need my left hand here. You can read the word.
Well, you might have to give me a piece of paper.
There we go.
I don't have it.
Oh, here it is, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Here, the scribblings on that one.
So the authority may convene in closed session pursuant to sections 19.85(1) subsection E Wisconsin statutes for purposes of deliberating or negotiating the sale of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business as necessary for competitive or bargaining reasons. The authority will thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to section 19.85 subsection 2 Wisconsin statutes to take action on items discussed in closed session if appropriate and to consider the remainder of the agenda.
Roll call, please. Oh, we need a motion and a second, I'm sorry. Motion and a second to go on.
Motion.
Okay,
Second.
Okay, Kathy and Matt, a roll call now, please.
Okay, Delvo.
Yes.
Schuler.
Yes.
Scannell.
Aye.
Dean. Inkvis.
I'm
Ganther.
Aye.
Okay. Take a moment to go into closed session.
Recording stopped.
Thank you. Paul's still there too?
We're back.
Okay, everybody back?
Yep.
We're back to open session. Once again, great discussion and closed session, and I think I'm ready for a motion.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and make the motion here, kind of 3 parts to it. So first is, we'll direct staff to research and proceed with a 30-foot easement and then bring that back to the RDA for approval. Recommend that the city transfer the right-of-way to the condominium association through standard city procedures. And then direct staff to research and prepare a detailed cost estimate for reuse and lease of the currently RDA-owned property and bring that back to the RDA for future consideration.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second by Alderman Scannell. Questions or comments? Oh, wait, somebody else is second?
No, no.
Debbie,
No.
I'm sorry.
Not to separate you two.
Right now it's Alderman Scannell with the second. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments in regard to the motion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Jessica. very good. That's the last of the official items on the agenda. Informational, I looked at the financial report and check register, I don't have any problems, unless somebody else does. Director's report.
Well, I know I promised everyone I would have a nice written report ready to go on this one, but I got a little tied up on this last agenda item.
Yes.
So it will be forthcoming via email here before the end of the year with a nice full detailed update.
And that's really nice.
Because we wanted to be able to share that with council too at this point in the year too. So.
The one I'm particularly interested in, because we had the retired member today, is the big parking lot, the Associated Bank. Anything happening there at all?
Yeah, we're working with them right now in terms of actually kind of proceeding with their some environmental actual activity that they need to do for that particular site. So they actually have their remedial action plan, I think, done. They're also kind of finalizing some financing. So Mayor and I actually had a productive meeting, possibly with a resource for them here just yesterday, in fact. So, so they are actively still moving forward on that site.
Okay, well, very good. First quarter, for sure.
In this economy, Mr. Chairman, I refuse to say for sure, but right now they are still spending money and still being in very active communication on the site.
That's very encouraging. Thank you. Other projects that questions for staff? Anybody? Well,
Oh wait, I have one.
Yes,
The one that's where we moved the trail. That's over close to Astor Park over there?
Yep, absolutely. We are supposed to be receiving a revised CSM to get that land transfer complete. Now, the gentleman who owned that property passed away this past summer. So most likely not going to be seeing, at least from that developer, it's going, essentially the land's gone to trust at this point. So they will most likely be looking to sell the property. So staff has actually met internally. We are probably going to proceed with a rezoning to kind of make sure that it's, I think right now it's an industrial zoning. So we're going to kind of get that rezoned to be more appropriate for residential or commercial use. And then we need to, right now what we need to do is we need to get that CSM finalized so we can actually do the land swap for the trail and the private property. And then we actually owe that below the trust of, I think it's $150,000 payment for their trail work they have completed. So right now, we're just trying to get that last part wrapped up and done. So as soon as we get that completed, most likely that property will be up for sale. And we'll probably hopefully be looking at a new development agreement then with a new developer sometime in 2023.
Sure.
That's prime.
A follow-up with something Kathy mentioned earlier, and it's actually a question for Diana. In regard to the reassessments, what type of impact that's going to have on our tips? I mean, do you have a feel for that, or Neil?
You can start, and I will pull up a spreadsheet. It actually didn't have, it actually, in most TIDs, it had a negative impact.
Right.
Just because the commercial did not go up as much as the residential went up.
Okay.
We had some of them, we had a couple TIDs that took pretty large hits. I did send an email out, and I could forward it to you, but I will need to find it.
In some districts, I mean, it was the increment generated dropped by 22 to 25%. So a pretty significant drop on some of the larger ones, especially I think our like our TID 12, I think was one of our biggest hit ones. So certainly that has some impacts on how we go forward in terms of now the ones that are young, that are newer TIDs, we're not too concerned with those. Will come back.
Sure.
Some of the ones that are getting towards the end of their useful life, we're maybe counting on using that increment for particular projects, particular areas, may be causing some concerns, and we might need to do some evaluating on and recommend some different applications for how those funds come through. But at least we do have an initial number of kind of what the projected impacts will be. So.
Yeah, thank you. I just found it. Thank you. I just appreciate it though. Yeah, in 2021 we were brought in $12,495,000 in all TIDs. Okay. And for 2022, with the revaluation, it'll be $9,775,000. So there is a reduction of $2.7 million in increment to the change. The largest TID that went down was TID 12, which is your I-43 Industrial Park, which is the one that was expected to be closed in the next couple of years. And then your TID 14, which is your Broadway District, or your rail yard. And then the other next largest one was probably TID 16, which is something is on military.
So the bottom line, if something needs to get done, you and Diane are going to work on it.
We're on the hunt for more increment. I can tell you that right now, Mr. Chairman.
So
yeah, absolutely.
That's a good answer.
TID 12 we were going to hold open. That's the one we were holding open for affordable housing. So is that amount will be less coming in? then for affordable housing?
Correct. At this point, we did not close TID 12 in 2022.
Right.
You know, the option is to close it in 2023, and you can also in that same year decide whether or not you want to put it that into affordable housing, or do you close it in 2023, have that one more year worth of increment, which is about $1.5 million. We had talked about whether or not then that could be transferred to another TID that needs money, so either the shipyard or a rail yard.
Right.
And then in 2024, you could have the roughly $1.5 million for the TIDA.
Okay.
The bottom line, you guys are on top of this.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I
Other questions or comments for the mayor or staff or on anything?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Absolutely, everybody.
I have one.
Yes, Jeff, please.
I would encourage everyone to take your family Christmas picture out on the city deck.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
So there's been some enormous news coverage about a new sculpture, the I Heart GB sign. I'd like to thank the City of Green Bay Parks Department for assisting with that. That was a project that my coworker, Jenny Van Langenberg, she's our Director of First Impressions. We feel that ending the note with an impression like that is outstanding. Schreiber is the major supporter of that, so they made that happen. It's beautiful, it's getting a lot of great comments, and it would be outstanding to see it on national TV on Monday night, Sunday. Like next Monday.
Yeah, we had a great time down there yesterday and happened to actually run into the owner, the new owner of City Deck Landing.
Okay.
Sean Daly, who has some really great ideas about filling out that retail space on the first floor, which is now I think entirely empty. Right? He's got 3 new businesses that he's got on the hook for it, so just another great person investing in downtown Green Bay.
Fantastic. Is there anybody aboard from on Broadway or military?
There is.
Both still?
Military. Leo's here.
Yep.
Yep.
Hi, I'm here. This is Leah.
Leah, what's happening?
We're looking at a rezoning for Martin's on the old Shopko site. I think there's a public hearing coming up on the 22nd on that.
I believe that's correct, yep.
Good.
Sears is gone too, and wow, is that a weird.
Yeah.
Right.
When you come out military and it's like, whoa!
Little change in the landscape.
All right. Looks great.
All right. On Broadway, Amanda?
She was, but she's not here anymore.
Okay. If there's no other questions or comments, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Kathy, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everyone.
January 10th.